Hollow Knight is one of my favorite video games of all time, and after completing it multiple times over, I figured it was long overdue to make a real video on it. My friends will know that I attempted to stream Hollow Knight on my now rather dormant Twitch channel to mixed results, and I thought it was time to do this game some real justice. I have so much appreciation for this game, every single aspect of it, from the locations to the sweeping scale, the story, the combat system, its cheap price. Seriously, this whole game is just get it. Oh my god. Originally, I wanted to write a review about this game, or make some sort of appreciation video for it, but if I'm being completely honest, I don't have the vocabulary for it. My ability to analyze video games is perfectly adequate, but for a game like this, I just don't think I have the chops for it. Besides, it's not my jam. What I'm really into are lists, rankings, and tiers. Yes, that's the stuff. Now, character lists for this game are awesome. I'm sure you've seen 100 videos about the bosses on YouTube, because there are just so many of them. Which, of course, is why I'm proud to present today's video. I'm ranking every single Hollow Knight boss from worst to best. Again, not easiest to hardest, just worst to best. It's an opinion list, okay? Just getting that out of the way now. While I was writing this script, I noticed how many great Hollow Knight characters weren't bosses, and as a result, were characters I couldn't really talk about. So before we get into the bosses, I think the regular old NPCs deserve some love too. These fun characters are just as important as the bosses. Without them, we wouldn't have vendors, transportation, and a lot of the series' lore. Since bosses have a lot more to offer video-wise, they will be the main focus. So this is just an appetizer. A really long appetizer. With that being said, here comes the lightning round tier list, starting at the bottom. Fuck you, Brad. I'm way cooler than Zote, you dick. Why would you leave me? Well, it can't get worse. Fluke Hermit. What in the world is the Fluke Hermit? Why? Why, out of all of the creatures in the game, would you give more lore and attention to the fucking sewer worms? Give it to literally any other character, any other boss, any other enemy type. Give it to the Dirtmouth residents, or give it to the fucking Colosseum. Oh, wait, no, you kind of sort of did that, actually. Give it to the fucking Bowfly if you must. Just please, anything but this. Leg Eater has a terrible name, weird design, and odd form of speech. Usually characters like this have a soft spot in my heart, but in Leg Eater's case, it's just too off-putting. I did not mind when you died. Whoa, what the fuck is wrong with this character? I mean, yeah, you've got some lore, but it's not even close to worth it if I have to look at you for too long. No, if I'm being honest, Millabelle is a rather uninteresting character overall. She takes your money and she saves it for you, and on its own that would land her a really low slot on this list. The best and only interesting part of her character is the betrayal. I was gonna place her an F because she really annoys me, but getting to take back the money was pretty awesome. It brings this rude character up a peg.
Really?
Surprisingly, there is only one group of characters for this list. In fact, I'm just gonna put all the Godseeker characters in D tier. Yeah, they just all go here. I'm not sure why, but they're all different, and yet I feel indifferent to them all. And here's the thing, at first I thought they were pretty cool. Ironically, they reminded me of myself, since I'm fascinated with god status characters like Kirby. But over time, these guys just lost their spark on me, and weirdly I saw them as annoying. Not totally sure why. I do really like their designs, and the actual god home is beautiful. Location-wise, S tier, but character-wise, I could use more. Hey, here's a really fun fact about Hollow Knight. Everything C tier and above is someone I actually like as a character. This applies to every list. I just really like this game. It's so much fun, and ranking these guys was so hard to do. But here we go. Poggy Thorax, Caliph, and Farah Orth, which has a contender for the weirdest names on this list, and Blue Child Joni. I like these guys. They just don't provide much of an impact compared to other spirits. On top of that, they get to be all on their own, and unlike the spirits, Glade spirits, I expect a little more from them. Poggy Thorax has a killer name and a cute mustache, but he's in a really hard location to find and does nothing for me. These two have fun designs and not much else, and Blue Child Joni gives you a charm, I guess. Gravedigger gets a slight upgrade because I find him completely adorable. That's it. That's all you need. Tuck has a funny name and a cool manner of speech. His sporadic nature is kind of fun, despite there not being a whole lot to work with here. I wish he was around more, and it was pretty sad seeing him die in Steel Soul. I actually like the Moss Prophet enough, but they just aren't very memorable on their own, which I say a lot for this area of the list. With one-off characters, usually the most fascinating part about them is their corpse. Willow is a bug I never think about. Seeing this adorable bug eating some mushrooms is cute, and that's about it. Having this reveal later in the game through the dream now that they eat other bugs is pretty cool, but since they never attack or, even interact with you, the enjoyment ends there. Screw you, flower girl. I survived. I'm not stuck in some room. I killed a god, and soon I will kill capitalism. Cool design, cute name, and you give eggs to Gigi, which is, it's adorable. Weird design and very high prices. Excuse me. I know there's not much to do with Geo in this game, but whew. Oh, and also, you eat leg eater? That's a huge plus. You don't do much, and I'm not a fan of all this, but your cool mask can take you at least a little far on this list. There is nothing wrong with Salubra. This character provides useful items at a reasonable enough price, sorta, and accessing her takes a bit of skill you don't have yet, giving her this aura of allure at the beginning of the game. But she's just a bit weird, I guess. It's Hollow Knight, what am I expecting at this point? Are you a boss? Are you a mini-boss? If mini-bosses were a thing, I'd probably call you a mini-boss, but wait, I'm sorry, hang on, your name is Pale Lurker? Are you a pale being? What were you? Okay, let's take a quick break from the letter value list and move into our cool concept tier list. In the middle of the list, we have the following characters. From last to first, we have Un. From last to first, we have, however you pronounce this word, Isma, Drya, Hegemold, and Zamir. 3 of the 5 so-called Great Knights are only ever mentioned, talked about, or they're literally dead. It's a real shame we don't get to see him, since Ogrim, the one knight we get a real character out of, is amazing. Isma has a cool design for corpse. Drya dies in glorious combat. Hegemold is nowhere to found. His armor was stolen by a fucking maggot of all things. Cool for the maggot, but a bad look for him, if he's even alive. The Grey Mourner does have a side quest and lots of dialogue, which is why she's the highest of the knights, but they are just so unnoteworthy. This guy, I'm actually, wait. Okay, however you pronounce that. Whatever, I love godlike characters, and seeing his cameo in the Pantheon is great, but overall, not enough screen time. These guys are in the middle zone here because they could be cool if we just knew more. Certainly one of the most interesting spirits, Vespa has a potentially tragic backstory with some good dialogue, interesting lore, and a great design. What a pretty voice. I'm not totally sure how I feel about you. On the one hand, you're tied to a stupid flower quest that I loathe, but your story is so vague and open to interpretation. It's very curious. Plus, you're the coolest looking spirit by far. Ugh, Mask Maker is creepy, but in a good way. Plus, it's fun to knock his own mask off. Reading the Menderbug's journal is adorable, and that's about it. If anything, I put them this high because I feel bad for needing to kill them to get that journal. Sorry, but that's just the way of the hunter. You've got a long-winded name and great lore.
Bapanada.
Woof, Bardoon is a big lad. That's a fun boy. Large, wow, you are, holy shit, you're long. Why are you so long?
Really?
There's not a lot going on here, but what is here is solid, and finding the other snails dead around the kingdom is really eerie. Okay, I'm putting every living charm in this slot. I don't know if they qualify as characters, but I'm putting them here because they're characters to me. Okay, the spiders and the fucking self-destructing little bugs and the Grimchild. Oh, look at this baby. These are my babies. Wait. Oh, wait, is the Grimchild literally my child? Hang on, is it related to me? Like by blood? Okay, Mila's tough. This one's pretty sad. When I first played the game, Milo was an adorable singing friend, just a cute character with a cute song, and ironically, it's her being infected in the end that makes her story stick out in our minds. The White Lady is wrapped up and secluded alone. She stands as this glowing figure of the past. She towers over the player, and despite her passive state, she's clearly very powerful. Talking to her is really fascinating and sad, seeing her beg you to help her finally seal away the infection. But it's sweet to hear her talk about Ogrim and Drya. Of course, it's sad once again since she doesn't even know that Drya's dead outside her door. I'm putting all the Dreamers at the top of this list, with Hera the Beast taking the lead as the most interesting lore-wise and even design-wise. As the Queen of Spiders, her throne is the coolest of the Dreamers, and her connection to the King and Hornet is awesome, if a bit tragic. Monomon the Teacher is great too, if a bit simplistic. Most importantly, it gives Quirrell his much-needed lore and backstory. And unfortunately, Lurien the Watcher gets the short end of the Dream Nail here, with no real connections or history. He's got an awesome boss fight and a cool throne, and he's a fan of the King. That's what I remember about him. He's cool, and definitely would have been lower, but these three are basically attached to the hip, so I included them all here anyways. Okay, moving on.
Nah, Minobis.
Revik is a fucking badass ghost who beats the shit out of you if you try and hurt his friend. Seriously, he killed my ass the first 3 times I tried to use the Dream Nail on the other ghost. I cleared out the area once, and his reaction made me so sad I never did it again. Seer is a cute moth who wants ectoplasm. Enough said. Okay, the Pale King is one terrible leader and one awesome character. We get to see so much lore for this game, told through snails and small subtle details, characters and the backgrounds, and yet I feel like it always leads back to either the Radiance or the King. And either way, those two and their battles in the past are so intertwined in the story of this game, it's impossible to ignore them. Seeing his corpse and him in flashbacks and seeing the worm body gives this guy a real feeling of power. And being able to take his brand, his charm, and even his throne, it feels pretty good. Ah, what a cutie! Ah, you're not really a character and you barely qualify for this list, but you're just so funny. Ah, love this little guy. Cornifer has reasonably priced maps for every single zone of the game. He travels you around, he has a funny hum, and I love him. I will protect you, I swear. Elderbug is ironically one of the youngest characters in this entire game, or he just straight up missed a lot of important shit. Either way, I love this determined town guide. The Nailsmith is a simple guy with a good design and a fun location. On its own, this isn't earning him a higher spot, but giving us the option to kill him, however, is awesome. And since I never kill him, I always get this really cute ending with him and Shio. Ah, getting these adorable artists together is the best. I subscribe to the theory that him eating his children is a form of metamorphosis for them, because if that isn't true and he's just like straight up ate them, he's my least favorite character, straight up F. Tiso is hilariously vain. Seeing this complete snob talk his way around the kingdom is awesome, but unlike Zote, he actually does have some good in him. He sees himself as a proud warrior, and he wants to prove it for real. And it's a shame to see him disposed of so easily, but it really adds to the intensity of the Colosseum and the world around you. Plus, his cameo of the Pantheon is fucking hilarious. I'm not gonna spoil it, but he is in there. The grubs aren't characters, but they're so cute. Oh, these are probably the cutest characters in the game. I mean, what, you got a heart of stone if you don't free these guys, come on. I'm going to assume that Nim and Brum are the same character. I mean, they don't treat themselves like they are, but like, I mean, they look so similar, and then when you get rid of them, you get rid of the Grim Troop, Nim shows up instead of Brum. I'm assuming, right? Yeah, they're the same bug. Either way, love them both. Oh my goodness, Nim playing his song in town is adorable. I love his little face. Ah! We're here. We're at the S tier. These guys are the cream of the crop, and since there's only 5 characters left, I'll spend more time on them. Our main character is not really a character at all. By nature of the game's story, it is completely vital that our unfeeling protagonist is quite literally empty inside. It's odd, playing as someone so completely neutral. Someone who is only moving because you tell him to. Someone only attacking because something is directly in front of him. Someone who watches his brother deformed and in pain and attempting to end his own life, saying nothing. When we see the things we do in this game, we have a reaction. When they see it, it just means nothing. And despite this, everyone, including myself, assigns them characteristics where there just aren't any. And that might be the real reason he made it this high on the list. Zote is an interesting character. If you go about it one way, you encounter him a single time and then he dies forever. But for first-time players who've been stuck in this barren, cold, terrifying world, seeing another creature that looks just like you, scared and in need, it's highly likely that they're going to go help him out. And if you play it that way and defeat the incredibly easy Vengefly King, which I'll get to later, what you end up with is an edgy teenager's interpretation of a good Pokemon rival. He is sporadic, quick to action, and, while not totally stupid, certainly brash and careless. He's a total asshole. And what you see is what you get. He never changes. Even his design is just a slouched, angrier, grumpier version of you. He just shows up all the time. This pompous dork is so obsessed with himself, but he's so clearly, unendingly stubborn about his own abilities that I can't help but like him. He's such a ridiculous non-threat for now that seeing him in the Coliseum is hilarious, and seeing him talk on and on and on about himself later in the game is even funnier. Oh, what a cutie. Quirrell is this poetic swordsman, and he is everything to me, and I'm pretty sure the entire fandom agrees with me. Quirrell is known for his introspection on life and his docile nature. In a game like Hollow Knight, where you're either a boss or an NPC waiting to die, meeting Quirrell is a good change of pace. After his memories were mostly wiped, he went around the lands searching for adventure, meaning, and his own history, and eventually, he finds it. Partially. After he helps you beat the shit out of this dork-ass jellyfish, eat it nerd, I got Quirrell on my side! After that, he helps you kill Monomon and break the seal. If you go to the Blue Lake after that, he's just sitting there. His voice is raspy and old, and yet he acts the same. You can tell age is getting to him, but he's happy. It's a life he's lived, and if you visit him again, all that's left are the memories you made with him, a smile on my face, a tear in my eye, and his nail. Left alone on the ground, the death of Quirrell is one of the saddest and most powerful moments in the game, because he was one of the very few characters who was just happy, someone who we could trust to help us, and someone who died helping us. Well, I mean, Cloth died helping us too, but Quirrell just shows up more. Quirrell is a brilliant character, and it was a close fight, but I couldn't help myself. This guy is a trooper. He remembers the golden age of Hallownest. The last stag was previously a transport vessel, like the rest of his kind. His job was to take people from place to place, and that's about it. But when you first encounter him, it's clear that this is everything to him. He's old, his joints and muscles are stiff, his memory is fading, and his voice is raspy, but despite everything, he's more than willing to help you out. He's soft, and he's fuzzy, and his face means everything to me. Oh, and hearing his opinions on each location is adorable. One of my favorite parts of the entire game is when he gets upset at some locations and mentions getting me to safety. Oh my god, he's such a good friend. But easily, the best part of his story is the ending. When you find all the stations, the stag remembers his home, now abandoned, unused, and lost to time. In it, we see the corpses of other stags, but thankfully, within the bad, there's always good. We find eggs on the top level. Some of them are open. The stag can even sense the presence of his kind once again. In that moment, his name changes from the last stag to Old Stag, and that is honestly one of my favorite moments in the entire game. Maybe in any game. I literally shed a tear when I saw it the first time. But he doesn't have shit on my boy the Hunter! This ruthless killer gives you the Hunter's Journal, and I know I'm not the only one who wanted nothing more than to oppress this guy by killing every single guy I could. Yes! Finding his tiny hallway deep within the greenery and surrounded by fangs, oh, this is a bone-chilling introduction. And don't even get me started on that scream. I know they reused the scream, but he's the best one. He uses it the best. This guy is the real deal, and his writings on each creature are legendary. They go from heartful to helpful, hilarious to hurtful. This guy tells his entire story when describing the creatures he loves so desperately to hunt. We learn about his old pet he accidentally killed when trying to test its strength. We learn about his favorite foods and least favorite foods. We hear him crack a joke and we hear him get serious. He has more characterization than nearly any other character in the game. This guy turns the trivial killing of enemies into an art form, and I wanted nothing more than to impress him. And I won't spoil it, but when you complete the journal, it's just really cool. Trust me, it's cool. And she has dream nail dialogue that I also won't spoil. Oh my god, I love him. The Hunter's Journal was so impactful to me, so fundamentally ingrained in the idea of what makes this game so good to me that I drew my very own version of it. I mean, it's not done, but I'm trying to hand draw every single enemy along with my own version of the Hunter's entries. Oh my god, I love this guy! Alright, that was it. That was every lame, boring-ass character you can't even fight. Boo! Shame on you. Stupid. I want to kill you guys. Oh, who am I kidding? I can't get mad at you guys. Well, I mean, maybe a boss fight with you guys wouldn't be so bad. And speaking of boss fights, let's move right along right after I rank all the spirits from the Spirits Glade. I mean, these guys are kind of separate from NPCs, so whatever. Lightning round times 2. Here we go. I don't know any of these guys by name. I know them by visual appearance, though, so I'm going to go off that. Okay, the first guy is Dr. Guy. He has babies on his neck. Dislike that. No thank you. You're not terrible, but you're certainly the worst one. Okay, Knife Guy. You've got lots of knives. You're kind of okay, you're cool, you're I don't like you. I don't know, Mosquito, you're kind of fun, but I don't like mosquitoes. Okay, next, Guy with curvy sword, you're cool, nice hood. Okay, Weaselly Guy, I like the orange. Big Guy has big horn. Other big guy has really thin horn. Both of you guys are cool. This guy's a flying guy, he's got a cool tail. That's a doctor guy. Got, ooh, like little mischievous hands. I'm twiddling my thumb right now. Ha ha ha. I'm going to kill you. Okay, that guy has a heart on his chest, I think. That's kind of cute. He's red. He's got a big horn. Big horny guy. Horn. Lobster guy. I love lobsters. You've got a broken shell or something. Cool. Zombie. Bringing it up at the A tier. Zombie. Also, Jack's Films. We got guy with a head cut off. I bet that that's just pretty cool, actually. I just think he looks like a vampire. And then we have a gladiator guy. I played God of War recently. That's what I'm thinking about. And then we have Dead Moth number like 3. Is that like okay, there are 4 moths in this game, including this guy. You got the spirit, the spirit warrior and seer. I think that's 3 dead moths, 1 soon-to-be dead moth. Welcome to the list. And then we have Cake Guy. He gives you cookies. I like cookies, S tier. Okay, Thistlewind is actually the only one I know by name, and I actually love him. I love his design. I love his weapon. I love that he actually mentions another spirit warrior, which gives them some kind of legitimacy in the real world. I like that they're kind of forgotten about completely. I do like that, but the fact that only one is ever mentioned ever, and it's by another dead person, that's pretty cool. So, Thistlewind, you get the top of the list. This was kind of pointless. Okay, now let's talk about bosses. But before we go into the actual boss fights, let's talk about them as characters. Now, it's hard to remove the bug from the boss fight because bosses are often reduced to their fight. And I'll be the first to admit that some of my biases for the fights leaked into my opinions on the characters themselves. But just because a fight is fun doesn't mean a character is good, and vice versa. Trust me, I probably won't go into these guys a lot. Probably. Was there ever even a doubt? This is a revolting and not in a, oh, what a terrible world, I must help save it kind of a way. Nope, it's just fucking gross. It's weird and I hate it. And the noises it makes, oh my god. Here's a fascinating opinion from yours truly. When I first played Hollow Knight, I was easily dying to just about everything except the Guardian. Both normal and enraged. I just beat it first try. And ever since I've associated this mute moron with simplicity. This is a rare case where the boss fight was so dull for me that my opinion of the character was just tainted forever. Alright, what's fascinating about everything past F tier is that I don't dislike them. Like, I don't dislike a single boss from this point on. Which is weird, right? I mean, we're in the E tier. This is pretty low. But nope, these guys were just a bit too monstrous for me as characters. Not enough to really latch on to in terms of liking them for anything other than design. Which is why the Moss Charger is last, followed by Gruzmother, Umu, Vengefly King, Oblobbles, and finally the Brooding Moloch. I have no strong opinions on any of these guys. Their designs are all comparatively simplistic, aside from Umu, who I like quite a lot, and they all function as obstacles first, characters second.
Really?
The Dreamers are all fine, but they are all just their boss fights. They have no real build-up or lore, and no one really talks about them. So as characters, they're pretty low. I just don't find No Eyes particularly interesting. If her story was a bit more clear, I might like it more. I literally forgot this guy while writing the script, and I just put his name as the Doctor Guy, and that's it. I like that the Mantis tribe killed him, but he's got nothing going for him. Galeem has a cool weapon, he's got an awesome scar, and I like that he thinks he's alive. Makes him a fun guy to talk to. I named my character in the Minecraft movie we filmed on Twitch a while ago after him. Okay, you've got a cool mini story, you've got a great design, and a perfect introduction to the Dream Warriors. I guess you can fight them in any order, but like, he's right there, he's the first one. Marmot put all of their eggs into the cuteness basket, and it worked. They topped D tier. Oh, this poor sad sap doesn't even have a name. Just give him a name, a cooler intro, and like one more attack. That's it. I would put him way higher in the list. I really like this as a boss fight, but there's no real character to speak of here. I like their connection to Lorien, who is the least explored of the Dreamers, but they are literally just called the Watcher Knights. I mean, that's pretty cool, but that's their only character. Great DLC. I mean, the Hive was seriously lacking a boss fight, and Hive Knight is an adorable bringer of really annoying gameplay. His cries and screams while summoning bees are adorable, and his bow to the queen before dying is pretty sad. We never get to meet the original owner of the once glorious armor, but we get the next best thing. False Knight is a perfect introductory boss in a number of ways, but even from a story perspective, he offers a great look into the depravity and hopelessness of this once great kingdom. I mean, we beat the shit out of this maggot, but he only wanted to protect his friends, and that's it. That's the end of his story. It's sad, but also not getting him past D tier for me. I love and hate the Traitor Lord. On the one hand, I love his design and his area. The fact that he's a disgraced Mantis Lord who took a large handful of soldiers and just left the tribe is awesome. His design is great, and it perfectly illustrates the physical differences bugs go through after the infection. But I love the Mantis Lords, and they hate him, so I guess I hate him too. Oh, this poor guy is just like us. In fact, we see a lot of broken vessels lying around the kingdom. How did they escape? Well, we don't know. But what we do know is we fight one of them. It's almost like a clone fight, like a Dark Link kind of a fight. And the best part is that after the Lost Kin loses, he bows to you? Oh, it's really sweet. It's honestly very touching. The Collector is the most unusual character in the game, that's for sure. Why does he collect bugs other than just to be an in-universe reason for them to be collectible? I mean, I might actually have just answered my own question.
Nah, me no biz.
Nosk is rather simple. He gets a really cool intro with gross sound effects and an awesome design. He doesn't speak and is encountered in a single area of the game. The reason he's in A tier, filled with actual characters and not just boss fights attached to characters like the other creatures or like Hive Knight, is the lead up to his fight. The air of mystery is thick and putrid as you follow a clone of yourself down a hallway filled with corpses. And if you check their dreams, they're spewing nonsense about seeing loved ones thought long gone. Nosk being able to see into your mind and mimic memories is fascinating, and it's a shame we only see him once. Radiance doesn't get the attention the Pale King gets, but her influence is everywhere. She's directly responsible for the deaths of Hera and all of the Dreamers, Tuck, the Moss Prophet, Maya, Quirrell, the betrayal of the Traitor Lord, and the destruction of the entire kingdom, for just a few examples. Beating her feels like fighting the literal sun, a god of gods, and ironically snuffing out that light of hers does nothing but bring brightness to the kingdom, no longer trapped in an eternal night. Okay, God Tamer's here because I really like their design and I think her beast is cool. I mean, that's it. It's a great way to end the Trial of the Fool, and that's it. Sometimes that's really all you need. Soulmaster is another great example, like Nosk, of a brilliant setup for a boss. The Soul Sanctum is a disturbing, it's grotesque display of power and an overindulgence almost. There are corpses everywhere in the kingdom, but here there are corpses of bugs sapped of their soul everywhere. There's a snail trapped and experimented on, and most shocking of all, fellow soul warriors have been warped through the use of soul. When you finally fight the master, he is massive, inflated, and relentless, and his ego claiming he alone could have solved the infection after his rematch is rather perfect. I'll group these brothers together, I mean, why not? Oro and Mato are incredibly simple despite being at opposite ends of the world. Oro and Mato have a fight going on. What are they fighting about? Why did they split up? Who knows? I don't even think they know anymore, which is funny because that's all they talk about. Their reconnection to the Pantheon is really heartwarming. Shio sneaks in just ahead of the competition for a couple of reasons. He isn't bound to a relationship like his brothers. I can judge him as his own being. He has his own characteristics, style of fighting, and boss fights, so he sticks out in my head a lot more. And his interactions with the male smith are the cutest thing in the world. Grim is a demon god of Halloween that co-parents an adorable rat bat spawn so that he may one day be usurped as the ringleader in the world's worst circus. Grim is poised, bows to you, and his music is great. What else could you want from the father of your child? Some child support would be nice, especially because Divine is taking all my money! Zote finally did it. This ass clown actually got stronger. Sure, it was in the diluted dream of a fangirl, but still, he sorta did it. He's only up this high because I find his mannerisms during the fight really funny, but he's lower than the real Zote because he only appears in this fight, and it's barely his own character. I mean, he really isn't his own character. Maybe he shouldn't be here. I like shopkeeper characters, and Sly being a nailsmith with a nail 5 times his height and 10 times his weight is the fucking funniest thing in the world. Sorry. I mean, he makes funny noises too. That's it. I mean, obviously Hornet is S tier. Mantis Lords just sneak their way onto this tier. They really don't deserve to be here. These guys are the complete reverse of Wing Nosk and the Crystal Guardians for me. I love their boss fights so much that it makes me love them as characters exclusively. Plus, the Mantis Village is an awesome location, and having them bow to you after you beat them is a brilliant touch. While they don't adventure with you and help you out like Hornet or Quirrell, nor are they shopkeepers like Sly or Cornifer, I get a real sense that these guys are my allies. Oh man, I love Ogrim. The fact that this lovable shit-eater is one of the 5 Grey Knights is an amazing character twist. But outside of that, we actually get a lot from him in a short amount of time. The White Lady talks about him, we learn about his relationship with Isma, and we get to see them in his dreams and how he's genuinely sad about his friends and how much he misses them. The Defender's Crest changes dialogue with multiple characters, adding yet again to this feeling of lasting presence in the world. Having a character that doesn't leave his area but still feels like he's lived in this world is awesome. Plus he makes us a little poop statue, which is amazing. Oh my god, I love you! The story of the Hollow Knight is nothing short of horrific, tragic, and saddening. When both the Hollow Knight and our main character were born, they were both able to reach to the top of the abyss, but only the Hollow Knight was chosen as the true Hollow Vessel. He was raised in the palace and grew to enormous heights. He was powerful, he was perfect, he was pure. There was not a single thought in his head. He was born, raised, and trained to do a single thing: take in the infection and save Hollownest. But in the end, that's what doomed them, for it was that singular thought, that one goal to not feel anything and become hollow, that prevented them from becoming completely hollow. So he was chained up with the radiance inside of him and left to rot. By the time we find them, they have so little control over themselves that they are thrown around by the infection oozing out. The only sane thing we see them do, the only thing that they choose to do themselves, really, is to die. He plunges his nail with so little hesitation into himself in a fruitless attempt to stop the infection, to stop their own pain, but it doesn't. That alone makes them the most compelling, driven, and heartbreaking character in this game. But even still, the different endings given to this story, the different paths, add to his character. In some, they help you defeat the Radiants and move on with their siblings once it's defeated. In another, you defeat the Radiants elsewhere, leaving them alive, confused, and quick to fight the equally confused Hornet. For a game with so little in way of clear story, timeline, or even dialogue sometimes, The Hollow Knight offers one of the most tragic stories I have ever heard in a video game. And trust me, this is not the last time I'll be praising an aspect of the Hollow Knight's character. After all, we still have boss fights to cover! I bet you're sick and tired of hearing me rambling on and on and on and on and on about stupid things like characterization and story in video games. Not that that stuff sucks, it's just people don't play video games to cry or feel emotions that are complex and interesting. Nope! Fuck that. They want to hit things really hard with a big fucking hammer, or maybe an axe, or a sword in this case. I guess it's technically a nail, but who gives a fuck? Since you've waited this long, I'll give you the clearest ranking possible. It is in numbers only. There is a clear, defined list instead of the more general tier list ranking I've been doing so far. The boss fights in Hollow Knights are one of, if not the most discussed and praised aspect of this game, which is why I saved it for last and gave it this special treatment. Also, this is not a power ranking, I've already said this, but these bosses, I'm just taking them in for what they are. I'm ranking them on enjoyment and how good they are as bosses to me. Mind you, difficulty is definitely a factor, and maybe I'll rank difficulty exclusively another time. Oh, enough talk. Let's go over every single boss fight and finally rank them. Number 46, Fluke Marm. I hate this fucking thing, and I completely understand conceptually why these characters exist. When I went into the sewers for the first time, I had the right reactions to just about everything. I was pleasantly surprised by Ogrim. I was disoriented, and it was dark. And most importantly, these slug things creep me the fuck out. Just because they're supposed to be gross doesn't mean I like it, but putting all of that aside, why is this a boss? It's a fucking snooze fest. Anyone who's played this game, anyone who's beaten this boss will tell you the same thing.
I hate how they look. Why is he shooting it out of his little buttholes?
That's his only attack.
Really?
Yeah, that's it.
Suck. I'm not gonna get past this part.
This is the only part.
Right.
That's it. Done. Literally. Done.
Really?
Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay. I hated that. I thought that it was pretty easy. I think it could have used more of a fight.
This is such a boring fight. So much so that I am honestly sick of even thinking about it. The Fluke Marm has a very subtle, glaring weakness. The fact that it's a giant fucking hitbox without any movement. Just fucking hit it! All you have to do is spam Howling Wraith and you're done. Oh, did you run out of soul? Thank goodness the boss gives you fodder enemies to kill. Take a second to hit the boss, wait for the enemies, and then repeat. I hate that I have to include this thing this many times in a single video. 45. Massive Moss Charger. Moving away from the terrible sewer slug, the remaining bosses are all ones I can at least see some quality in. Not like this literal punching bag is any better than the Fluke Marm, but at the bare minimum it is visually pleasing in comparison. I mean, it's cute. Everyone knows the meme with this box. Long reach, steady body, you're done. But even without that, just jump over it. It's not like this is the first boss in this game. I have no clue why it's so unimaginative. If you're going to make a boss that doesn't do anything, isn't difficult, and isn't fun, why bother? Number 44, Umu. Umu is a mechanical nightmare and I hate fighting them. I do like that this fight plays a bit differently to other bosses in the game. The diversion from simple nail swinging is great and I can really appreciate what Umu was going for. Shame it's not fun. Fighting alongside Quirrell is a really good concept, and I actually thought that this fight would be higher because of it, but I still got major issues here. For one, it acts more like a cutscene than a boss due to its simplicity and your lack of involvement, and for another, this fight fucking blows. Umu's only attacks are either this boring movement thing, or a screen-wide lottery attack that blends into the background so hard I can barely tell when I'm going to get hit from it. Any enjoyment I got from this fight comes from Quirrell. This guy is doing so much heavy lifting, which is ironic for two reasons, since it's still super low on this list, and I barely fight it with Quirrell anyways. I fight it in the God Home. Also, I like using the little helper drums, and they're so bad in this fight specifically. Umu does become easier when you learn that you can just push those guys into him and smack little minions into him, but I mean, at this point I don't even care. Number 42 and number 43, Crystal Guardian, normal and enraged. Both of these fights are a cakewalk for me. I've died to them maybe once during Radiance, but even still, this fight strikes such a piss-poor balance between interesting mechanics and difficulty. There is nothing to glean from this fight, just hit it and move. Conceptually, I like this fight. The subtle, eerie music perfectly juxtaposes this angry and energetic Guardian. Shame this fight is just so tame. Number 41, Vengefly King. Wow, they got another boring fight in this game. You know, for a game like Hollow Knight, which is brilliantly filled with eerie atmosphere, powerful enemies, and daunting challenges, I'm shocked how many of these guys just are so dull. You just wait for it to get near you, and then you hit it. That's it. Finding it chewing on Zelda is interesting, and I first assumed he would be a really aggressive boss, if a bit easy seeing how early in the game he was, but nope, he's actually pretty slow and very ranged. Missed opportunity. Number 40, Winged Nosk. I'm sorry I'm so angry, but I just have no clue how they managed to mess this one up. They somehow just made like a deluxe version of Vengefly King with a Nosk skin and called it a new boss. Ironically, it backpedals on the problems Vengefly King had. I wished Vengefly King was more aggressive, to allow the player to better utilize jumping, dodging, and down slashing better than the original. But Wing Nosk adds projectiles, mind you not difficult ones, to the fight, where the original Nosk feels like a beast charging and striking, forcing you to work around its movements. Here you just sit tight and wait for it to strike. That is so fucking boring when there's nothing eventful happening in between attacks. The only reason it's above Vengefly is because at the very least it's harder, if only because it has more range. Give Vengefly a gun? Congrats! You have Wing Nosk. Number 39, Oblobbles. The Oblobbles have nothing if not hilariously mediocre gameplay. I mean, these little shits, the mini Oblobbles or whatever, are a nuisance the whole game, so it only seems fair to pump up the size, double them, and throw them into the arena. That's on top of the other Oblobble things in the arena. I don't know why they love these guys so much. The Oblobbles provide a bevy of challenges and patterns to practice, learn, and enjoy. That is to say, they have a single attack that covers the screen and is extremely unpredictable. They move around and shoot in every direction imaginable. Defeating one of them buffs the other's speed and firing rate, leading to the only thinking you'll ever need to do in this fight. Do you whittle them down together or target one and leave the other until the end? I'll give them something. That single thinking option does change the fight enough, and I keep it in my mind every time I fight them. But fighting this thing on any difficulty other than Radiance provides no challenge, since you can just tank them and move on. When a fight is only hard because of random bullshit, that's not a good boss. It's just the Oblobbles. Number 38, No Eyes. Yet again, another fight where you just fucking sit there. The worst of the Dreamers by far. No Eyes put you in a dark room filled with thorns attempting to navigate moving obstacles to hit a target that teleports. That doesn't sound like a boss fight, it sounds like target practice minigame. If you try to chase her, you're going to take useless damage from either the terrain or her children. Your best bet is to just sit tight and wait for her to come to you. As a result, this fight is boring, mostly. Finding her in a dark room while dodging obstacles is an interesting premise. I just wish there was more to this fight. Thankfully, past this point, all the bosses are at least okay. None of them are totally boring anymore, and all of them provide some much needed energy. Marmu, Jesus, when I said energy, I didn't mean this. Stop, please slow down, Marmu. Number 36, Elder Who. The good Elder himself is a fine enough boss. All the Dreamers are simple, and while he's not the worst, he isn't the best. He provides little in way of challenge, and the only reason fights with him last as long as they do is because this screen-wide attack allows him to teleport away or something. This attack is why he also isn't higher. It's not challenging to dodge, and it only serves to artificially increase time for the fight, and he does it all the time. Seriously, look at me fighting him right now. It feels like he's doing it multiple times in a row, right? All bosses in the game have break periods and moments where you can't hit them, but this is ridiculous. It wouldn't be so bad if you could hit him, but you can't. He just disappears. I guess he teleports? I don't know. Maybe it's like a ghost thing. They all do it. It's a ghost thing. Number 35, Gorb. Sorry, buddy. The memes can only take you so far in a boss fight list. Gorb is once again hilariously simplistic and really easy to beat. The escalation and attacks are clear and easy to move around, and the slightly shifting nature of his needle things keeps him from being totally easy. You need to be careful about approaching him for that reason, so it's a good mix of getting soul and using spells. Number 34, Absolute Radiance. Okay, here's a funny placement. I put him at about the 1/4 marker on the list for a specific reason. I can't get to him. I haven't beaten him, I haven't even fought him. I've beaten Radiance, but I literally don't have the skill to climb the tallest tower of this game. I am happy to admit that I don't like extreme difficulty. I don't even like most difficulty. I like a challenge, but at a certain point I can't get invested in something I know will take hours to beat. So in actuality, no, this boss certainly isn't this low on the list. Far from it. But I just don't know what else to do with it. Sorry guys, I prefer fun over difficulty, which just goes to show you how this difficult game is really fun, I guess. In actuality, I put him here because he represents a genuinely unfair challenge and a harsh way to lock endings to this game. It doesn't sit right with me that achievements and endings are locked behind such a terrible gauntlet, so I put him at a pretty low marker because of it. As a fight, I'd probably put him closer to the top. Number 33, Markoth. Markoth is the opposite of most Dream Warrior fights. He is difficult, uses multiple attacks, and I hate him personally. This fight is fun, normally, but I pull my hair thinking about doing this on Radiance most. But I'll admit, the pressure he forces on you and the difficulty is a great change of pace for the Dreamers. Okay, remember I just said that. I'm complimenting the number 33 spot on this list. These bosses are good. Number 32, Soul Warrior. All in all, this guy is just a less engaging version of one of the Mantis Lords, which is the same, because he only has one face. He does have a few attacks, and you can also summon some enemies at one point, but yet again, it's not enough to totally grip me. I'm honestly not sure why this guy is considered a boss, since he never really acts like one. At times, the regular Soul User enemy guy thing is harder to fight because they can fly. If they gave Soul Warrior the ability to levitate while using magic, he would have been a much more memorable fight. Number 31, Zero. Zero? Yeah, I've always hated Zero as one of the best Dream Warriors, and before writing the script, I thought he would be the best. Zero is simple, but for a Dream Boss introduction, that's a really good thing. Upon further investigation, it seems unnecessary, however. He isn't introducing a new mechanic for him or the player, and Dream Warriors aren't special during the fight anyways. Zero throws 2 blades at you from above, one at a time, before adding another pair once his health reaches a certain point. Spamming the Shriek will send him falling, and it leaves this fight in a whatever spot on the list. Number 30, Galeem. Galeem is the only Dream Warrior that uses a physical weapon, and he uses it well. It begins with a simple dodge and weave as he throws his weapon around the room like a ragdoll, or like a marmoo. The battle quickly ramps up as he adds 2 different weapons at different points in the fight. Putting on this extra pressure with more and more weapons is a simple way to increase the difficulty of this fight. It's actually pretty enjoyable, while still keeping the signature simplicity of the Warrior Dreams. Number 29, the Collector. I promise we're nearly done with simple bosses. The Collector is nothing special. It isn't easy per se, but there is a way to cheese it. His main form of attack is summoning enemies to fight you, but if your nail's upgraded enough to just one-shot them, all he's doing is giving you free soul. Abuse that soul. Kill the minions, finish the job. Once I asked my dad to try this game out, and I gave him the Grozmother boss. That day, he threw the controller in frustration. I gave it to him again before writing this script, and here is what he has to say about this boss.
Alright, my name is Dad, and I'm the latest guest victim of Grozmother, and it was aging. That's what the experience was. I went in as a 50-something-year-old man and came out at 106, and it's supposed to be fun. Gaming's supposed to be fun, and it was... I hate to admit it was fun when I won. Up until that point, not so much. I think I'd have more fun if I knew the rules, and you tell me the rules, but I don't know that I really understand the rules. Like, for example, I think I can jump up and attack as he's coming down. Mother's coming down, the mothership, the Grozmother ship. And I guess that you can't do, and it takes you the whole game to figure that out.
He lunges, so he has 2 attacks.
I hit him on the top, right?
Yeah.
Hitting him on top. But it doesn't really matter because your fingers don't know what your mind wants anyways, and my fingers are slower than I think they are, and then the thing hits you. It's really frustrating. And then something good happens, and you're like, oh my god, I'm so cool. So I think it's kind of like golf, where you have 1,000 crappy shots and then 1 good shot, and that's the only one you talk about with your friends when you're having a beer afterwards. So I would play this game again, because I really love the moment where you were proud with me and you're like, yeah, that's it. And so...
just like that! He's beat it!
I would say I would do it again. It was humiliating and kind of awful, and I hate myself for throwing your toy. I'm sorry for that. But it might happen again. But I would try. Mother Gruzzer.
Number 27, Nosk. Unfortunately, style points don't translate to good boss fight points. Story Nosk is hilariously easy, with this spot here being a near guarantee victory. Fight him on any flat surface and the challenge is certainly increased, but now it's just a bit more annoying. Number 26, Traitor Lord. I never knew this boss pre-update, so I only ever got the new and improved version of him. And I like it. I need to stress that I like these bosses despite my potentially harsh words here. The reason Traitor Lord is number 26 is because I honestly find him too easy for where he is in the game. His 2 mask damage is a facade he uses to pretend he's a harder boss than he is. The game gives you the perfect tool as a requirement for his area. Just stay grounded, level-headed, and shadow dodge. Number 25, Broken Vessel. I really like this fight, and when I first beat it in story mode, it took me many tries to take it down. I felt really satisfied winning it, but I never had such difficulty again, nor did I feel that accomplishment again. With bosses later down the list, becoming easier doesn't necessarily make them less fun for me, but this isn't quite the case with Broken Vessel. And again, I like this boss fight. Being lower on the list is just in relation to other bosses in this game. You know what, if I'm being honest, my issues don't feel very logical. They feel more personal. So despite all my so-called issues, I still really like this guy, and I feel bad for being too negative. So why don't I bring in someone who's a big fan of this guy to try and show us why he's such a good boss?
Well, here's my very uninformed 2 cents on the Broken Vessel character. I Also, I'm coming at this from a strictly stylistic point of view because I've never played this game. I think he's got a great shape, and I know there are a lot of characters that have like weird shapes. Here's an example of a weird shape, a bad shape, if you will. And, you know, Broken Vessel's got a very great shape, face like a pop figure, very huggable, in my personal opinion. I also like that he's like a bigger version of the little ghost guy, or like an adult version of him if things went wrong and he was overtaken by like the orange glowy thing, which is fun. I was also watching Hercules earlier today, and him and Hades, when Hades gets really mad and his head goes like from blue to like orange and yellow, they look very similar, and I can't imagine that if the little broken vessel guy were to speak, he would sound like Hades, being like, you know, it's a little dark, a little gloomy, and like always, full of dead people. But that's just my 2 cents. I don't even know if that's, you know, slightly what this guy's like, but that is my uninformed 2 cents.
Number 24, the God Tamer. God Tamer is a mechanically interesting, completable in only a few tries, and thematically appropriate boss. It feels like a great way to end the Trial of the Fool, and its difficulty is apparent, while not being super complex so new players aren't forced to learn boss patterns, mess up, and have to restart the entire trial too many times. Number 23, Brooding Moloch. Brooding Moloch is the first boss I ever fought in Hollow Knight, from what I can remember. I remember exploring the beginning area like crazy, and when I got to this room filled with floating platforms, I instinctively checked every room. I didn't know what the Mantis Claw even was, so I bounced on these spikes and fought the Moloch earlier than usual. It kicked my ass, but learning its patterns and developing my pogo jump so naturally, it just felt amazing. Number 22, False Knight. False Knight is the perfect first boss. Well, first real boss. Sorry, Brooding. False Knight gives you plenty of room to run around and dodge its attacks. It provides great pressure while still giving new players a challenge they can presumably beat. The reveal of the maggot is also a really fun twist, and helps to emphasize the themes and tones of the rest of the game. Number 21, Failed Champion. This boss is the exact same as False Knight and serves the same purpose. The only difference is that it provides a perfect final first boss. It's the first boss the latter half of the game. Returning to refight this boss with virtually the same moves and patterns is brilliant. Failed Champion and by proxy False Knight are great examples of simple concepts being expanded to make it complex. Little things like hitting the maggot for soul, throwing rocks back at it, or dodging its massive size shake up this fight in a great way. This boss is tough, it will knock you down, but beating it is a great way to get players to pursue the rest of the rematch fights. Number 20, Hornet Protector. Our first encounter with Hornet is perfect, building up this mysterious character from the moment we escape the dirty introduction of the game, entering this lush green area and finally seeing someone who isn't trying to kill us, only for her to try and kill us. The agile nature of this fight leads to a required battling style. You need to keep moving. Hollow Knight is filled with momentum and quick thinking, which is why I dislike a lot of the more boring, slow-paced fights like Base Nosk or Flukemarm. There's just not much to learn. Hornet lunges around the arena, darting and zipping past you in an attempt to hunt you down. You feel the pressure as she twirls her twine and spins her webs in an attempt to cut you down. The fact that this is only number 20 says a lot about the bosses to come, because this is a near perfect early game boss. Number 19, Lost Kin. Lost Kin is identical to Broken Vessel. The only differences are in speed, attack intensity, and name, which technically goes for every dream boss or rematch variant, but you know what I mean. Lost Kin benefits from the changes the most, however. Where Broken Vessel was slow and predictable at a point in the game where he shouldn't have been, Lost Kin provides a great challenge while remaining consistent in the boss's patterns and aesthetic. I'm looking at you, Winged Nosk, you piece of shit! This is how you do a rematch fight. Number 18, Hive Knight. Hive Knight is adorable, if a bit annoying. Hive Knight does this classic zipping around the room I just praised Hornet and Lost Kin for doing, but it does so in a way that feels a bit more cheap to many people. Not to me, I love it. But I should note that Hornet and Lost Kin are always present in their fight. They are moving around a bit, but Hive Knight does this thing where he sort of teleports, but he makes it look like he's just going really fast. That slight difference allows him to apply more force to his attacks, and it helps make up for the lack of move diversity. His bee summoning thing is the same thing. Hive Knight is a great spacing boss, giving you very little wiggle room and forcing you to be on the move at all times. Number 17, Grey Prince Zote. The more you fight him, the worse he gets. So I don't really know how to rank him. I guess I'll just talk about base level Grey Prince Zote for now. This fight is fucking annoying, and it probably would have been higher if it wasn't so frustrating. Zote's movements in this fight are near impossible to understand in your first encounter with him. Now, all bosses should be difficult, but they should all technically, theoretically, be beatable on your first try. The best bosses give you opportunities for learning and success. Great Prince Zode gives me opportunities to punch my fucking screen. He's just too sporadic, and his constant hopping and insane damage makes this fight feel really artificial. So why is it number 17? I don't know, man, this game is really good. It's so fucking fun. Number 16, Brothers Oro and Mato. This fight is great. The first phase is short and sweet, and gets you acquainted with the base moveset while also throwing in some specific nail arts used by one of them. That's a pretty cool touch. The brothers joining in to fight together is a brilliant twist, and it adds the perfect challenge. Once you figure out their movesets, it isn't hard to just gang up on one of them, leaving a relatively easy single brother to finish off, but nonetheless, these guys make for a really engaging and entertaining boss fight. They even dodge and get out of the way to make it harder for you to defeat one at a time. They shuffle in and out of the hot zone, protecting each other while one is waiting and the other is attacking. Dodging and jumping out as they're using their nail arts against you is an inspired concept, and the constant yelling and grunting makes me feel like I'm really in a sparring match, which is something they have in common with another boss I enjoy. Number 15, Hornet Sentinel. This fight doesn't do a whole lot to change the Hornet battle style, character, or pattern-wise. If anything, this fight just proves the excellence of the original fight. Hornet is equipped with more health, more competent movesets, faster attacks, and little spike things like the Hive Knight. With these tools and a fancy new counter that worked on me once, and I'm still so annoyed at it, Hornet is a seriously formidable foe that I died time and time again to on my first attempts. This fight caps off at number 15, and with it, we enter the best of the best Hollow Knight fights. Number 14, Sly. Sly is a fucking annoying fight. This little twerp utilizes all three nail arts against you with such precision and speed that there is no way you're making it out of this with all of your health. Sly packs a massive punch, and his relentless barrage provides a fun but seemingly unending fight against a true nail master. Now, most bosses in the game go down when they're defeated, but Sly doesn't go down easy. His second phase is short but purposeful. It gives a great feeling of finality to the fight, as if it's his last resort in beating you. It's like a cheap game exploitation akin to a nasty combo in a fighting game. Dying at the end of any boss fight always feels tough, but here it just stings. At times, this fight feels a bit much, which is why it isn't higher, but it's a fucking bonkers fight against a really fun opponent. Number 13, Shio. Paintmaster Shio may not be as powerful as his teacher, nor does he wield a nail like his brothers. Instead, Shio offers one of the most entertaining and visually interesting boss fights in the game. His paint allows him to use unnatural projectiles and ranged attacks that set him far apart from his brothers and masters. He gets the speed and range of Sly without always putting himself in danger. His four major attacks are all brilliantly telegraphed via the colors of paint he uses. No other boss is so clever with its cues, and it sets Shio apart yet again. I may have lost to him countless times, but I always return for more. Encore, Shio! Also, while we're here, the brothers and Sly bowing to you feels really cute. It's very nice. Number 12, Dung Defender. Ogrim strikes fast and hard, both on the battlefield and onto this list. His boisterous nature is expertly reflected in his battle style as he bounces around the arena in joyful glee. His attacks are mostly easy to learn, but for first-time players, getting overwhelmed is pretty common. Juggling dung balls, burrowing, and his own lunges and swipes is very difficult, and it's only amplified by his ability to dig underground and strike from below. Once you figure out that using Desolate Dive on the ground resurfaces the little critter, the fight does loosen its grip on you, but even with those few extra hits, the defender is going to give you a challenge for sure. Number 11, Soul Master. This is one of my favorite fights in the game. This wielder of Soul utilizes his powers extremely effectively. He teleports around the arena and barrages the player with projectiles, slams his body down to create shockwaves, and throws himself at you in a sweeping motion across the floor. The Soul Master even finishes the fight with a fake-out death, revealing a rapid-fire final phase that doesn't last too long, but, much like Sly, can catch unsuspecting players off their guard. It's not the hardest fight in the game, but it keeps players on their toes, remains energetic, and, most importantly, fun. Number 10, Soul Tyrant. There isn't much to say for the Tyrant. Aside from the terrible Enraged Guardian, this is the rematch fight I think of the least as a separate entity compared to the original. They're very similar. It's harder for sure, and this circle attack thing is harder as well. Oh, and he's faster too, but that's kind of it. The final phase, however, that is when the Tyrant gets a lot scarier, and that's a big reason I enjoy this fight more. Also, are you hearing the music that's playing right now? This is what plays during his final phase. The souls of the bugs killed by the Soul Master are laughing at him. Ugh, that is a terrifying and very fitting track for his final moments alive. Number 9, the Hollow Knight. The Hollow Knight is a relatively easy fight for what it is. Essentially, this fight serves as phase 1 to the Radiance. You aren't meant to die to this boss. You are meant to die to the Radiance, and as a result, the Hollow Knight is made intentionally easy well, okay, easy in comparison to the Radiants and some other endgame bosses, that doesn't detract from the overall enjoyment of this fight in any shape or form. The Hollow Knight is an emotional fight, with loud, crashing music to accompany the Hollow Knight's screams. Hollow Knight is unique in that he utilizes attacks not traditional for the creatures resembling the Knight. It dashes with incredible speed and swings its nail at you, but it also throws infection as a projectile, flies into the air and slams himself onto you as he has a wide arena-covering attack. It's one of the best examples of the amplifying powers the infection possesses, and it's a perfect fit for the character that physically embodies the struggle Hollow Knight has with fighting the infection. If this fight were a bit harder, it probably would land itself higher on the list. Oh well, shame there's no harder version of this fight. Number 8. Radiance. I'm no monster. Putting Absolute Radiance so low was clearly not reflective of my actual opinions on the fight itself. In reality, Absolute Radiance would most likely land a spot right next to its counterpart in the top 10. But I'm allowed to dislike extreme, blood-boiling difficulty. The Radiance offers a brilliant blend of platforming, dodging, and striking to help subtly incorporate everything you've learned on your adventure into a single, true, final fight. Walls of light that force you to dash through them, spikes on the floor that require pogo jumping, weaving through blades while striking and utilizing spells on the always moving enemy, not to mention you get to challenge the fucking sun. Like, look at that thing, that is just straight up God. Like, what the fuck? You get to challenge that thing to a fight. Okay. The Radiance is a perfect cap off to a game filled with amazing bosses, and if Absolute Radiance was more achievable, at least for me, I don't know, maybe it's a problem just for me, who knows? Maybe it would be this high too. Number 7. Nightmare King Grim. Remember what I said about Absolute Radiance and Radiance? So I like a challenge. Video games can be challenging. Unlocking this fight is kind of challenging. The fight is challenging, but if I'm honest, it's challenging in a way that sometimes feels unfair. Now, that's very obviously not to say it's a bad fight, but hear me out. Nightmare King Grim is a great boss. It keeps you on your feet at all times. You must be focused at all times. You must be dodging, jumping, and attacking at all times. Attacks come from every single angle, and if you don't remember his cues and patterns, you will be chopped down in seconds. I adore his remixed attacks, and I think that they all accompany a great fight and work to help increase difficulty in a recognizable and defeatable way. My big problem with this fight is the itty-bitty window of opportunity given to you for attacking. Sure, a spell can hit him from just about anywhere, but hitting him for soul is tough, and getting near him can only happen on a few of his attacks, and at best you're only hitting him a few times. That's at best. Even his stagger is moving around the room, the one time you're expected to get free hits and you can't even get free hits in. If that's my only issue with the fight, it's big enough to keep him from a higher spot in this list. I mean, this high up is nothing to sneeze at. Who's complaining? Me, I'm not complaining. Number 6. Troop Leader Grim. Same thing as before. It's not that this fight is specifically better because it's easier. It's just better because it feels way more like an actual fight. With Nightmare King Grim, all that's happening is dodging and hitting every once in a while. But with this fight, you're really focused on dodging and attacking to a far greater extent. I actually feel like I'm moving this fight along because I actually get to hit the fucking boss. Number 5. The Pure Vessel. I don't need to spend a lot of time on this fight. If you played Hollow Knight, you know why this fight is good. I prefer this fight to Nightmare for a few reasons. For one thing, this fight gives you time to attack, even time to heal. His stagger gives you a choice compared to Nightmare, who is constantly moving around, prompting you to favor healing. Not only that, but Pure Vessel, despite his lightning quick attacks, is very much a hittable target. It's very similar to the Hollow Knight fight, mechanically, but it is the biggest change both visually, story-wise, and character-wise. Not only is this fight a more refined, elegant, and deadly version of the original, requiring very perfect movements and mastery of the game's mechanics, but it also provides some heartbreaking backstory to the game's title character. The best moment in this fight is the beginning. The music is very similar, but far slower and darker. But what fans will notice most about the change is actually related to the Hollow Knight himself. Let's listen again. He doesn't scream. As the Pure Vessel, before he becomes infected and before his thoughts betray him, he has no voice to cry suffering. Just like the King says the Hollow Knight needs, which makes his cry at the beginning of the true fight all the more saddening. But that's not why this fight is so high up. Obviously not. Pure Vessel will put you to the test more than any other boss in this game, and it does so in a way that feels achievable, fair, and fun. And that is the making of a great boss fight. Which is why it's kind of funny that it's only number 5. Number 4, Watcher Knights. I am shocked at this placement. I have notes for these lists. I can't just remember all of this shit, I need to write it down. And when I was placing the Watcher Knights, I remember going back to my first playthrough of the game. I remember being so frustrated at what seemed like such an unfair fight. Sure, learning the first few Knights' attacks were easy, and he had a few grand sweeps followed by a roll, either across the room or a bouncing bounce, who cares. But where it lost me originally was the introduction of multiple Knights. It was only after many tries that it suddenly clicked for me. I fell into a brilliant rhythm of taking down one Knight at a time, dodging strikes and swinging around each opponent. When looking back on this list, it's clear that a niche section of these bosses work wonderfully in pairs or groups, with a few exceptions. The God Tamer has no real synergy attacks, but having both attacks at once make two easy bosses combine into one harder one. Oro and Mato cover each other as they strike, and the Watcher Knights bring on the pressure with their rolling attacks. Boss fights with multiple enemies are a lot of fun, especially in Hollow Knight, and if you've been keeping track, there's still one more boss fight that follows that convention. Number 3. White Defender. It seems really odd to ping-pong my way from the depressing story of a creature's emotions, will, and life being scooped out so they can be used as a living tomb for a failed god, to one of the most annoying boss fights in the game to most people, to Ogrim. Ogrim strikes back with a faster, high-octane clash in the dream world. Yet again, we see where Hollow Knight shines as an action-adventure game. Energy! The best bosses in this game provide a brilliant and striking contrast between the dark, empty world around you and a rapid-fire, high-energy boss fight. Hollow Knight is at its best when you're forced to learn and adapt to ever-changing threats, and the White Defender pulls no punches. His bevy of shit-filled attacks are better than ever and provide a more impactful and harder challenge. Rapid-fire dung balls, shockwaves, unstoppable burying, increased speed, and even his signature tuck and roll all blend together to form one of the most enjoyable battles in the game, even if it is the worst smelling battle in the game too. Number 2. The Mantis Lords. The Mantis Lords are the most fun I've had with a boss in a long time. And what's completely baffling is how simple this boss seems on paper. In Hollow Knight, or really in any game like Dark Souls or Metroid, or a game with bosses you can't just beat on your first try, there are a few steps you have to take to beat the boss. Step 1 is reaching them, which is where Absolute Radiance fails for me. Beating Pantheon 5 is such a monumentally difficult task that even getting to this boss seems near impossible for most people. Step 2 is learning its patterns. I docked points from Great Prince Zote because I thought his attacks were overly unfair and sporadic at times. The constant shockwaves and dive bombs make him difficult to predict and learn, mixed in with the always increasing difficulty. Finally, Step 3 is the battle itself, actually using what you learned in Step 2 and finally beating the boss. Step 3 is bad when Steps 1 and 2 are useless, like with Fluke Arm. Those fights are so boring that Step 2 is completely irrelevant and Step 3 is a cakewalk. The Mantis Lords have no such restrictions. Step 1 subtly prepares you for the Mantis fights by pinning you against mini versions of them, like the Soul Warrior for the Soul Master, or the Traitor Lord and his mini-traders. Step 2 is the most brilliant, however. The fight provides you with a brilliant and hidden teacher, the first Mantis Lord. She is relatively easy to take down, maybe only taking 1 or 2 tries to learn the movesets. She jumps on walls and throws a disc, and has 2 pouncing and striking attacks. Perfect. Done. Step 3 starts after you beat her, and are left with the other lords attacking at the same time. Using what you know from phase 1 of the fight, you're able to weave through and pinpoint the perfect times to attack them before they attack back. This seemingly perfect blend of movement, agility, difficulty, and fairness and fun are exactly where the Mantis Lords find themselves at the very top of this list. Not once, but twice. Number 1. Sisters of Battle. Was there ever even a doubt? When it comes to Hollow Knight, there are 4 big boss fights to talk about. Nightmare King Grim, which is a fucking annoying and impossible to interact with fight. Absolute Radiance, which you can't even unlock without hours and hours and hours and hours of grinding in Godhome. Pure Vessel. No, actually, I really like Pure Vessel. Carry on. And the Sisters of Battle. The Sisters of Battle do everything the first fight does and crank it up to the next level. This is one of, if not my favorite boss fight in any game ever. If the first fight was a fluid and delicate dance, then this is a fluid and delicate dance that is also going to result in you dying way more than the previous dance. Hey, here are some other adjectives to describe this fight. Graceful, intimidating, amazing, inspiring, creative, unique, simple, perfect, complex, super perfect, wonderful, creative, oh fuck, I already said that. It's a little bit sexy. Persisting, understanding. Did I say perfect? Did I say sexy? Such a seemingly minor change makes this fight the most lively and entertaining fight in the entire game. There is no better feeling than seeing the third Mantis Lord stand up and having new music blare as you manage to pounce, leap, and pogo your way to victory. A 3v1 fight has never felt so fair. The only bit of criticism I have for this fight is the health of each Lord. It's not shared, and as a result, the fight will eventually become just a normal Mantis Lord fight once one of them is defeated. After beating one of them, I don't have to worry anymore, and tension is totally lost. If they shared one bar, it would be a much harder and longer fight. But it's a small change that doesn't affect my overall opinion. If Mantis Lords were S tier, I think it's only fair the Sisters of Battle deserves their very own slot. They're number 1, triple S. Well done, everyone. Y'all lost. Y'all go fucking suck a dick or something. I don't even care. Everything else is F tier except for Mantis Lords. Fuck off. Okay, that's it. That's it. I'm finally done with the stupid list. Alright, I guess these 4 stupid lists. I'm sitting in my room right now. I'm like rubbing my eyes. I've been recording for who knows how long, but it's done. I can't believe this script started as just a ranking of the boss fights, and now I'm here. I'm just glad it's over. And more than that, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you've never played Hollow Knight, why? I told you earlier to go play it, so I guess you didn't listen to me? Okay, but seriously, please go play it. The price to content ratio is one of the best in gaming ever. The soundtrack is wonderful. The atmosphere is lively, and the boss fights they're pretty good. And if you do play it, please forgive the sewer section. I honestly have no clue what Gene Terry was doing with that. I try not to think about it when I play the game. It's not like I bring it up too much in this video anyways. I hate this fucking thing. Fluke. Hermit.
I hate how they look.
Fucking sewer worms.
Here's an example of a weird shape, a bad shape, if you will.
These slug things creep me the fuck out. Give it to the fucking bowfly if you must. Just please, anything but this. You did it!
What?
Just like that! He's beat it!
Okay.
You did it,
I can
man!
barely hold on to the controller. It's so wet and gross.
Alright.
So he died so fast.
He does so fast.
Because I actually hit him a few times.
It's because you were not only hitting him, but you had a charm that increased strength, and you had a charm that used thorns. So when you got hit, he got hit too.
Oh, I'm good at getting hit.
Yeah, so you were doing like a crazy amount of damage without even knowing.
I like that.
Alright.
All right, I feel omnipotent. I've gone from ego, fixer to omnipotent.
Yeah, you've humbled.